What's up? I'm back with another update video. As you can see, this one's a little different. So I want to start off by saying I apologize for not uploading yesterday. I broke the streak. It was like 2 weeks, so that's kind of unfortunate, but had some stuff going on with 4th of July and did not have time to really work on my project. That's sort of excuse though, because usually I try to plan uploads in advance if I know if I'm not going to be able to do something, but just did not have the foresight to do that this time around. So I apologize about that. So I'm making an update video today, but it's slightly different. I'm just going to talk about broadly what's going on with the HTTP project and what is going to be the focus of what I'm working on going forward. So, first off with the HTTP project, uh, where I left it off in the last video is pretty much where it's at right now. There are a couple things I want to close out, but more or less, I'd say it's like 90% done. And so I'm close to being ready to set it aside. What I spent a lot of the weekend working on was making this website, and I was spending so much time working on it that I did not really document it. And I'm making this website just as sort of a way to market myself to future employers, kind of talk about what I'm about, my experience, the sort of things I've worked on, etc. And I actually used to have a website, but it was a pretty bad one, just like a basic HTML website a couple of years ago. And then I stopped paying for the domain, and someone stole the domain. And then after that, I just got tired of paying for paying to keep it online. So it's been down for a while, but I brought it back up this weekend, updated it, got a little bit of help from Claude on that because I am not super proficient with front end stuff, but generally I knew what I wanted stylistically, and I think it came out pretty well. So what I'd like to do in this video is walk through this website, and then you can see in the second tab I have another project which I've been working on off camera that I want to talk about, which I might make a couple videos on after I'm done with the HTTP server. But generally, I think the next two or three update uploads will probably be about the HTTP server, getting that finished, and then putting it on GitHub in a stable state, kind of like I did with the base64 implementation. Um, and then after that, it's kind of wide open what I want to work on. I'll discuss more of that later. But first, I'm just going to talk about what I'm doing in this website. So this is the landing page. You see, I'm a master's student in data science at Auburn. I'm a machine learning intern at Hadrian Automation. So here's a brief little about me section, talking about some of the things I've been working on. Then I've got these little title cards which take you to the navigation bar on the left. So I've also got links to my GitHub and my LinkedIn. So I'll just go to education first. So I've got this little timeline here that shows the date. Um, Here's the date that I'm graduating, and here's the date that I'm starting my master's. I haven't actually begun the program yet. I've been admitted, but I'm about to start my first semester in the fall. But it's my undergraduate certificate in artificial intelligence engineering here. This is my bachelor's in applied math. You've got the GPA, honors, distinction, etc. And something that's interesting is that Auburn has this uh, Auburn has this tool to validate someone's credentials. So if you wanted to say, did this guy actually get a degree in applied math? You could take my credential ID, copy it, and then paste it into here, and then enter the first two letters of my name and validate that I actually did graduate from Auburn with this degree. So I thought that was pretty cool, and it was a nice thing to add on. Here, I've got a little page for my experience. So I've done two internships, one last summer and one that I'm currently doing this summer at the same company. Got some project tab that describes what I've worked on and then the skills that I used. So this time around, I'm using Python, TypeScript, SQL, a bit of Bash, Docker, PyTorch, and Hugging Face. I actually probably should include AWS in here. Um, AWS is present in this one, but I might update this and include AWS in this one. I mentioned it here. Um, I'm not going to read all this verbatim. If you're really interested, you can check out the website yourself. But yeah, last summer, working with OpenCV, LoRa, AWS. all that stuff, a couple projects. Um, and yeah, when I initially made this website, it rendered with everything sort of flush to the left, and then when I opened it up on my phone, everything was really messed up with the rendering because I think it was doing like raw pixel values for the rendering rather than proportionate to the width of the screen. So I had to fix that. That's why it's in the center now. It used to be on the left, but I updated it to work better on multiple devices. So here's a uh, section on the research that I did as an undergraduate. So talking about my undergraduate research fellowship, you can see you've got the code to the GitHub repo that I wrote for that fellowship. You've got a link to a slideshow of the slides I presented at um, at the undergraduate research symposium I attended. Here you've got a description of what I did in the research lab that I was in as an undergraduate, and I actually am still in currently. And you also have a link to a paper that I presented at a conference on ResearchGate. Projects. This is probably the page that I'm the most proud of. I think it looks really cool. You can see another link to my GitHub, and we've got certain tiles for individual projects that I've done in the past. So here's one for the Base64 project that I documented on this channel. We can see, get a little brief description of what the project is about, and a link to the repo. Got another one for my undergraduate research, which was in photonic crystals. Got this over here. Cool little photo of a photonic crystal. It's not the same type of crystal that I worked with, but I just thought it looked cool as like a cover photo. Here I've got a tile for my project where I implemented a transformer for my data mining class. Of course, I had to throw in the classic image of a transformer from Vaswani's paper. And then here is another tile talking about a project I did for my graduate machine learning class. I should specify it's a graduate class I took as an undergraduate, but this is on sentiment analysis with recurrent neural networks. So we've got the standard sort of diagram uh, for a recurrent neural network and how it operates. Another quick little summary, and then finally we've got a little contact tab. So I guess if you really wanted to contact me, you could email me, but you could always just leave a comment if you're watching this YouTube video. But yeah, that's how this website looks right now. I've also verified it by going on my phone, and it looks pretty good on mobile. It used to look kind of messed up on mobile, but it actually looks somewhat presentable, so I'm happy about that. Um, so let me talk a little bit more about the CS self-study uh, thing that I'm doing. So I'm definitely still doing it. I just had to take a couple day detour this weekend. I'm going to finish up the HTTP server project, and then after that, it's kind of open season. One thing that I think could be a quick little interim project while I search for a longer term big project is this calorie tracker app that I made. I just made this with Claude. I know the idea is that I'm coding all these things from scratch, so it kind of goes against that idea of the self-study series. But what I wanted to document was the process of deploying it. So the app already exists kind of in the final state that I intend to use it, but I want to deploy it so that if I'm at work and I get some food, I can track it in my tracker. Right now, I'm just running it on localhost, as you can see, which is nice, but if I can't access it from when I'm not sitting on my computer, what I'd have to do is write down the food, write down the macros in my notes app, come back and enter it here. And that's just kind of inconvenient. So it'd be easier if I could have a website or a URL that I can go to where I am able to enter this stuff on the fly and update my macros for the day. So yeah, that's kind of what I think I'm going to try to do. I think I'm going to deploy it on the cloud just because I don't want to have one of my devices running 24/7. Plus, it's a little more volatile to have it deployed on one of my devices. And also these cloud instances, if you get like a low power one, they're extremely cheap. It'd be like $3 a month or $4 a month. So I think what I would do is probably document the process of getting this thing deployed to like an Amazon EC2 instance, and kind of just like the wiring of how you take a local app and deploy it onto um, and deploy it onto a cloud service framework. I've done this multiple times at my internship where I've done deployments of I've done deployments of like models, for example, on AWS with SageMaker. But I think this would be a good opportunity to show that, you know, I can't I can't put my company's internal endpoints on my resume, right? So this would be a good chance to demonstrate that I am able to deploy things to endpoints using just a little toy project. Well, really, it's not a toy project. I actually use this, but toy as in this isn't any sort of industrial scale app. Um, So yeah, I think that would be a quick little thing I could do in probably 2 days and make a couple videos on, and then that would be a cool project to have on my GitHub. The other thing is that right now the way I'm tracking all of this is I'm just writing to a CSV, and even though it doesn't really matter, I don't want all of my biometric data and stuff being public, so I will probably do. I think I'll try to make the repo public, but I might try to hide certain things. Uh, and also, I'll probably make the endpoint itself be password protected so that people can't just come to my endpoint and enter random food and fuck up my macros. Just generally, that's something that I I don't really want to have happen. But yeah, as you can see, it's just a standard calorie tracker. You put in the goals, you put in the macros. I can add food, document what macros it has. This is just some random calorie threshold of macros that I got from an online calculator. And here you can see I already put in my lunch for tomorrow. So company caters lunch, which is very nice. And so I can know every day what my lunch macros are going to be without having to do any extra thinking. So yeah, that's really what's going on with this app. It's kind of in a stable spot. I just want to deploy it, and I think deploying it would be worth documenting, and that will probably be my next project after the HTTP project. But that begs the question, if I'm close to finishing the HTTP project, and this thing is only going to take 1 or 2 days to get online and deploy, or at least that's what I anticipate. I'm not sure. I'm used to working with SageMaker, not um not I think there's ways to deploy endpoints regularly on Amazon without SageMaker. So it might take me a little while to get acquainted with that, but regardless, I don't expect it to take more than a day or two. The point I'm getting at is that begs the question of what is going to be my next big project that I'm going to work on as part of this self-study series. And really, it's out in the open. Uh, I think the Base 64 project taught me a lot about um, implementing algorithms and bitwise operations and things like that. That was actually very insightful. I didn't know much about bitwise operations before that. And this current project taught me a lot about TCP. It taught me about um, it taught me about text encoding schemes. It taught me about HTTP, just the protocol in general. It taught me about using curl more than I used to know how to do it. So basically, it was a lot of networking stuff that I learned from that project. And so I think I want my next project to be something entirely different. And honestly, I don't even know what it could be. If you guys have any suggestions, please feel free to leave those in the comments. But I think as I tie up the HTTP project and spend a day or two getting this thing online, that should give me enough time to think about, with some intentionality, what would be a good use of the next week or two being dedicated to a new project. So yeah, that's up in the air, but that's where I'm at right now. This is definitely a different update video. Again, I'm sorry for missing the upload yesterday, but things happen and I try to stay consistent, so that's why I'm talking about what I was spending my weekend working on, even though it wasn't necessarily a part of my self-study routine. But yeah, that's the end of this recap. I'll see you guys tomorrow with a normal upload. And also, you might have noticed I posted a short I've been doing a little bit of short form educational content. Doing long form educational content is something I honestly don't really have time for right now, given that I'm working full time at an internship. But I intend to post a little bit of short form content on the side. And so if you guys have anything you want me to make a video about, please let me know. But be on the lookout for that. Regardless, that's the end of this recap video. So yeah, have a good one.